I'm David James, and this is 2 Main Street on the road at the Big Roots Lavender Farm in Hancock County, Kentucky. This is a place of peace and tranquility run by the Ramsey family. It is a family business. We're going to meet the family members. So, what makes lavender so special? Well, it's a beautiful plant. Of course, it's aromatic and it has some healing qualities, and it's used in many products. Also, there's a lot of myth and lore about lavender as well. There's a story that when God kicked Adam and Eve out of the Garden of Eden, well, Adam and Eve took some lavender with them. I don't know if that's true or not. Also, Cleopatra, Queen Cleopatra of Egypt, she used lavender as part of her grand seductions. And there's a story that the asp that bit and killed Cleopatra, well, that asp slithered out of Cleopatra's lavender patch. Also, a lot of going on with lavender with its healing properties, healing headaches, it's soothing aches and pains, and even indigestion and heartburn. And the lavender has many uses as well as in cooking. So a lot to learn about lavender. Let's go talk to the boss here, Aaron Ramsey. Aaron Ramsey is the lavender queen here at Big Roots Farm. Aaron, thanks for inviting us out to this idyllic location. It's quite a transition from the urban environment you're used to.
That's for sure. That is for sure. In fact, none of us ever dreamed we'd be living in the country, let alone farming. I mean, we didn't even keep a house plant, right? It's just a really funny story how we got here, and we just feel like it was meant to be as a family.
So where are we?
We're in Hawesville, Kentucky, which is...
We're in rural Hawesville.
Yes,
Very
right.
rural.
Yeah, we're out of the city limit, if there is a city limit. Yeah, we're pretty far out.
Mm-hmm. And you're on, what's the road you're off of?
We're on Truman Young Road, but we're off of Highway 69, which is in Hancock County, which is where Hawesville is.
Now, besides being a lavender farmer, also you're an author, you're an inspirational speaker. So that was quite a leap of faith for you to leave that world in Evansville. I know you were a childhood educator, to decide to become a farmer. What was that all about?
You know, it was just like a natural evolution for our family. When I started writing books 12 years ago, it really was about living joyfully and abundantly and being courageous. And so I would speak about that. My family and I would be doing all the tools. So 7 years after that, which was 5 years ago, we really just got a wild hair. And we kind of think of it as like inspired action of practicing being courageous. And we literally came up with the idea on September 10th of 2016, and 9 of us moved here on December 27th of the same year.
So you convinced the whole family.
Yeah, they're not hard to convince because when it feels right, it feels right. Yeah.
Was this like over the kitchen table or something?
Basically, yes, it really was. What happened was my husband and I were talking and thinking we really should start a family company because we're all really creative, and a couple of our boys were in transitional stages into adulthood, and we were thinking, well, what could we do? What could we do? And we lived in Evansville, and I'm sitting there floating in my pool, and my son Ryan comes out, and maybe the year before I planted a few lavender plants in our concrete backyard. We lived over by the University of Evansville, so we had a concrete swimming pool and a concrete yard with a little flower bed. We planted like 20 lavender plants, 10 died because the dogs peed on them, you know. So my son comes out and I'm like, Ryan, you know, what can we do? Like, what's the best case scenario? And he's like, you know, Mom, I've often thought about being a farmer. And I'm like, you're kidding me. I mean, like, we were so city people. My chin was like off the raft, I guess. And I said, well, gosh, what could we farm? And I looked over and I said, well, I guess we could grow lavender. And we had a whole meeting that night in the family. We decided in the backyard, and we just went forth. We started traveling around on the weekends looking for properties. And we didn't know if we would be able to sell our house because it was a beautiful historic home that we had been renovating forever in a great neighborhood. But, you know, with a home like that, you can have a 50-page inspection. Person bought it who was a contractor, didn't want an inspection. He was going to fully renovate it for his family. We looked at a few farms and ended up here.
Now, was your husband Doug, was he on board?
You know, we really thought we were going to die in that house. We loved it, and our heart and soul was in it. And it was so perfect for our family. We had so many parties, and our kids' friends could come over. So leaving the house was hard, but we all felt like we were ready for a new adventure.
So what was Doug doing then?
Doug's an industrial mechanic, and he
Okay.
was working in Evansville. He still works in Evansville. Yep.
And he's kind of your handyman around the
Oh
farm?
my gosh, Doug can fix anything.
Well, that's
anything.
good.
And
That's
thank
good.
goodness he just is a hard worker because there's never not work to be done.
So were there any other farmers in your family?
No,
Really?
no, zero farmers. My son Jack has learned a ton. He's got a horticulture certification, and we've all learned by trial by error. And my son Ryan's here helping as well.
You had to learn a lot about lavender, I'm sure. Now there are different varieties of lavender, is that correct?
Oh yeah, there's so many different
Now
varieties.
what type is this?
This is Grosso, which is a French variety.
GRO?
SSO.
Grosso, okay.
And what we did was my son Jack and I, we flew out to Washington State, to Sequim, Washington, on the Olympia Peninsula, which is like the mecca of lavender. And we met our grower, and we shipped 1,900 seedlings from Washington State here. And he recommended that we grow two different varieties, the Grosso, which is the French, and the English, which is called Fulgate.
How do you ship all that lavender?
We've only had to do one shipment, and Victor, who we bought our lavender from, knows exactly how to ship it. It literally just came like in cardboard boxes
Really?
that were stacked. Yeah,
And just seedlings?
like this big.
Really?
Yes, yes.
And then you immediately plant them? Or?
Yeah, well, Jack and Doug and Ryan had the field ready. They had mounded. You have to mound for lavender in the Midwest because number one killer of lavender is root rot. So it could take on a lot of water, but it has to be draining really well. So we were mounded, and we had all of our weed barrier and our water lines in. And then we had an awesome planting party. 60 of our friends and family came out, and they helped us put them all in, and we did a big blessing. And then the funny story about that was after the party was over, and I think this is a good story to tell because I'm hoping that other families and people in general will look at life this way. After the party, Ryan, Jack, and I were sitting in the backyard, and Ryan says, well, Mom, what if all the plants die? And I said, you get that panic for a second. And then I said, well, don't you remember it's just our experiment year? And then we could go back to joyful lavender farming. And I think that that's what Big Roots is all about, that we're just looking at it as a big experiment to welcome more joy and abundance into our lives and to share it with other people.
And it's a family outfit doing this. It bonds you guys together even more.
We are so tight. We've always been a close family, but we spend a ton of time together because we're in the middle of nowhere. And it feels good to work hard together as a family.
Yeah. Tell me about the blessing. when
Yeah,
you
well, we
planted.
just set a huge intention, for ourselves for prosperity and abundance and goodwill. And you'll see that our taglines grow peace. That was the impetus behind it because lavender is healing for anxiety and sleep and calming. And so we just set that big intention. But then the next year, we had a whole group of Buddhist monks come, and they did a massive blessing, a dance and everything on
Really?
the farm. Yeah, it was beautiful.
Oh my goodness, that is neat.
Yes.
Now you have a new variety, Phenomenal.
Yeah, we just started. So the plants are about 5 years old now. They'll last 10 if we're lucky. So we're going to start redoing the rows, start a transition period. This is Jack and Doug's work. But I saw a farm down in Nashville growing Phenomenal, doing well. So we're going to experiment with that.
So what makes Grosso different from Phenomenal?
Yeah, so Phenomenal I'm not really familiar with, but Grosso is different from Fulgate. So Grosso has a really long stem, and it's more of like an astringent smell. It's really clean, very, very strong. And then the Fulgate's a shorter stem and has more of like a soapy smell.
So is Fulgate used in the soap then?
Yeah, no, we
production?
use Grosso almost for everything. We use Grosso for our coffee, for our lemonade. People use Fulgate more for like wreaths, decorations, because it has a
Okay.
brighter color.
Okay. Coffee. Tell me about the coffee.
Yeah, people love it, and they're just crazy about the lemonade, the lavender lemonade. The coffee, all we do is, if you go to a coffee shop, a lot of times they'll just pour syrup in it.
Sure.
We don't do that. We just take the fresh buds because we use no pesticides on anything at the farm, and we just sprinkle the buds into the coffee grinds and brew it.
Really?
Yes.
I have never heard of that. That sounds good. The lemonade, you said, is popular?
Oh gosh, people love that. And all I do with that is I use the dried buds and I steep it in honey and hot water and mix fresh lemon and water in it, and it's delicious.
Now, is it easy to grow lavender?
Well, some people might say so. Not really for us. No, no, we have learned a lot, but you'll notice there's not a lot of farms in the Midwest because it doesn't do great with humidity. So our rows are further apart. Like if you go to Oregon or Washington or France, we haven't been there, but when you see pictures, the plants are just on top of each other and super close together. Here you have to keep them far apart to let the air flow for humidity. So our plants are doing great. We have lost a lot with the late frost this year and then a few years ago with the polar vortex. But, you know, that's all to be expected. It's out of our control.
Now, we talked about the many uses of lavender. I know over the years it's had many healing properties. It's good for anxiety, indigestion. What kind of feedback have you received from people who have picked your lavender and enjoyed it?
They love it. They love it, and they love to know where it came from. Some people don't know anything about lavender that come and they just want an experience. And then there's some people that know like way more than us. We're always capitalizing on the master gardeners and stuff. In fact, we've made friends with a lot of master gardeners to help us through. That's one of the most beautiful things about being on the farm is the people that come into our lives. It's amazing who walks in that door on the weekends. It's it's crazy.
Now, besides lavender, you have other crops?
Yes, we have sunflowers that are here in the summer and in the fall. We have a cut flower garden in late summer. We're going to be doing pumpkins this fall. So we just kind of let it keep growing as it's growing.
And hemp now is part of your...
Yes, we have a CBD line. We get huge feedback from that. In Kentucky, there was an opportunity to grow hemp. And it had been for several years. We kind of came in on the end of it. We got a grower's license. We planted 1,000 plants that we bought from over in eastern Kentucky, seedlings. And Jack and Doug and Ryan all really managed the hemp business. But the market fell out when the Farm Bill passed, so we had a hard time finding a processor. It was this big adventure. Our buds were locked down in a warehouse in Owensboro, and then the judge had to release them.
Oh my gosh.
Everything we do is like this huge story, and we just go with the flow. But ends up that our buds were perfect, and the percentages were excellent. So we have CBD full spectrum distillate now in 3 different flavors. And my dad, who lives in California, was leery about CBD because he knew that there's not a lot of regulation. So Ryan and Jack talked to him about it, and he started taking it. And he said in 3 days, his arthritis was so bad he couldn't wear his wedding ring. And he started taking our CBD, and he could put his wedding ring on in 3 days.
Really?
The inflammation went down.
Well, that's a good testimonial, isn't it?
Oh, isn't it? Yeah, I know. It's maybe not for my dad, but it is true. Yeah.
Now, growing hemp, is that an easy process?
No, I should let you talk to Jack and Ryan about that and Doug.
So each plant has its own little challenges.
No, actually it grew beautifully and they managed it well. You have to feed it and water it and really watch it, make sure it doesn't stay in the ground too long so it'll lose its strength. But they did have to spend a lot of hours hand stripping it in the barn because you have to pull each bud off.
Really?
So that took a long time. Yeah, and lavender's super labor intensive. We get out there every night during bloom season and just cut, just our family.
Now, do you do a lot of weeding and fertilizing?
Yeah, we don't do any fertilizing.
Okay.
We don't need to. But we do my son Ryan does all the weed eating.
Now, this property used to be a tobacco farm, is that correct?
Yeah, a long time ago there was a big barn we had to take down because it wasn't safe. And then when we bought it, it was a cattle farm.
Okay, so you had some built-in fertilizer right there.
Exactly, the soil is great. In fact, that was another really good thing about coming here. We didn't know about soil testing or anything. So we bought the property intuitively, and we really needed a house big enough for all of us and a road for tourists. So that's really where the deciding factors. So Jack and I go down to the Purdue Extension or the 4-H office. I don't even know where we were. And we needed to find out, like, what kind of tractor do we buy? Like, what are we supposed to do? And so they showed Jack how to do the testing of the soil. So we were out there doing that. We sent it to UK. And miraculously, our soil was legitimately perfect for lavender.
You went score.
Again, I feel like that's all we do is score.
Now we have some farm dogs roaming around here. Of course, now
come
they
here,
took
honey.
off.
Come
They
here,
took
honey.
off. Oh, here we go.
Yep, this is Honey. Come
Honey.
here, Bear.
Okay, Honey. Honey is here. Honey greeted us as we pulled into the drive here. And you have other animals too, of course.
Yes, we have Nero, who's my grand dog, and we have Louie, who's our grand dog, and they're our little
Grand dogs.
a pack of lavender farmers.
Well, we're talking to Aaron Ramsey. Here we're at Big Roots Lavender Farm in Hancock County. There's more to the farm too. We have a shop inside. You sell the products, and this is a kind of a venue too for special events too. Have you had any weddings out here?
You know, we had one wedding of a family friend, and then we decided that we didn't want to do weddings. It was just too much of a commitment. So we have a lot of baby showers. You know, that's mostly what we have. Bachelorette days, they come out. A lot of special events, a lot of yoga, meditation, wreath making.
Well,
So,
good,
yeah.
good. Now, coming up, we're going to meet some family members, more of the Ramsey family farm folks. Also, the labyrinth. We're going to find out about the labyrinth. I'm kind of curious what that's all about. This is 2 Main Street. I'm David James. We're on the road here at the Big Roots Farm. 2 Main Street is presented by Jeffrey Berger, Kim Wren, and the Berger Wealth Services team at Baird Private Wealth Management. Doug Ramsey joins me now to talk about the operation here at the Lavender Farm. And you are the jack of all trades, is that correct, Doug Ramsey?
That's pretty much my role.
So what's your daily routine here?
Well, this is actually, I've got a day job, so after work, we got the biggest part of it, of lavender farming is weed eating, obviously, because we're completely organic. So a lot of grass cutting, a lot of weed eating. Right now we're in the process of replanting. We just planted 80 new phenomenal plants. We got another 200 coming. So we're going to stagger our rows. So it's all labor intensive, but it's fine. You know, we're all hard workers. We all enjoy it. So
What's your day job?
I'm a maintenance supervisor at a corn flour mill in Evansville.
Okay, so you commute back and forth.
Yeah, it was just no problem. Books
Okay.
on tape are lovely.
Okay, well, good,
Yeah.
good. Now, so what are the challenges that you've encountered growing lavender? Have you seen any surprises?
There's a ton of rain out here, so you have to mound, like Aaron was saying earlier, and you also it has to drain. So they can take on as much water as you want, but the water has to drain away from it. So we have, again, our mounds over time they go away, so you have to pull up the plants after 5, 6, 7, 8 years and then plant new rows.
Okay. Now, when do you put them in the ground?
Well, we just in May is perfect.
Okay.
But you can put them in the ground anytime. If you put them in July, obviously you got to water them.
Okay.
And you got to keep watering them until they take. So at a lavender plant, when it's fully grown, its root base will be 3 times the size of the plant itself.
Really?
So that's you got to make sure they have plenty of room and air to go through them. And
Now, you have the different varieties of lavender. Any special way you have to treat the different varieties?
no, you pretty much treat them the same.
Really?
The Fulgate is much shorter. Like this is the growth, so you get a much larger bundle out of that than you would so this is actually, to me, it's prettier, but the other one's much more colorful. So there's really no difference in how you plant them and how you take care of them.
Now, how long? Now I can really smell it now. That you kind of.
Yeah, just squeeze it.
Oh,
it really
yeah.
explodes.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
yeah.
So, when do you harvest it?
Right now.
Oh, really?
So the 2 plants that we planted are about 2 weeks staggered. So by July 3rd, we'll have it all pruned, which is basically we're cutting this off the top, and you do that so it retains its shape. If you don't prune it, it'll get real woody and just lay out, and it's not a pretty plant at all.
Okay.
But if you prune it, it keeps its shape, and it's really nice plant.
Now, folks can come out and harvest themselves.
They come out, and that's one of our big draws is you cut. They come out and cut their own bundles.
Really?
So they cut them, and if we have jars, a lot of people leave jars for us. Just canning jars that they use or whatever, they'll put them right on the porch, and we'll just put them in bins under our bench in there, and then we just put them in jars and put this little tag on them for them.
Well, tell us about the other family members involved here in the operation.
Well, of course, there's my wife. She pretty much takes care of the business side of everything, and make her and Sam make products together. The rest of us help with labels and stuff like that every now and then, but they pretty much take care of all that. Me and Jack and Ryan pretty much do all the
Now, who are
maintenance.
Jack and Ryan?
Jack's my youngest son, and Ryan's my oldest son.
Okay.
Of course, I have one more son. He lives out in Seattle. I'm sure if he was here, he'd be doing it too. But the interesting thing with our family being so close, we all lived in the same house together while he was building his house for about a year and a half. Not a single fight, argument. We all get along so well that it's just, it's really cohesive.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Family business, sometimes there could be some friction, but you haven't seen any of that.
None at all.
That's great.
None at all.
So, well, the whole idea is grow peace. You have it on your shirt there.
And we try to live by that. We really do.
Well, Doug Ramsey, thanks for a lot for having us here at your lavender farm. We are really enjoying our visit.
Well, thank you for coming out.
We're meeting more Ramsey family members, Jack Ramsey. And what's your role here at Jack?
I guess I'm a little Doug Jr. I'm kind of a jack of all trades as well. Nero,
Nero.
he's crazy.
Nero got me a nice lick on the ear there.
Yeah, he has a zero personal space.
So basically you handle, you're a troubleshooter? Was that you say
Pretty
that?
much. Something needs to get done, we figure it out. Yeah.
Now, what's this two-time farm thing? What's that all about?
We like to label ourselves that way because every time we do something, we realize we did it wrong.
So it's trial and error
Yep, we do 2 weeks worth of work in 4 weeks every time, but it's evening out now. The first 3 years are like that, but now that we have a handle on things, it's, you know, we can tell we've grown where we just hop out and do it instead of.
Well, give me an example of one of these things you had to do over again.
Oh, well, when we first put the weed barrier down, we put this cloth weed barrier that had, it was like little holes in it,
Sure.
like very small, but the sun was getting through, so the grass would come up through it. So the grass would be growing, pushing it up on the plant. So we had to tear all that down, lay down a different weed barrier, and then that weed barrier did the same thing. It'll just disintegrated on itself. And so we just went to no weed barrier, and now that's why we weed eat so much, but the plants are doing great, so.
Now, what advice would you give to someone who wants to grow lavender at their home?
Just plant it. I mean, plant it and water it every once in a while. And
Does it need a lot of sun?
sun is good. Maybe if you put some rocks at the bottom, if you're putting it in a pot, that way it has more drainage, stuff like that. Make sure, I mean, root rot's the biggest killer, so as long as there's not water sitting in it, it'll grow. Yeah.
Any pest control problems?
Well, aphids are a problem, and we have these things called spittle bugs, and they just leave like this little white sticky residue on the buds. It doesn't seem to affect it much, like killing them or anything, but it ruins the aesthetics of it a little bit, and it's kind of gross pruning.
Now, you also grow hemp here?
Yeah, we grew 1,000 hemp plants, I think, 2 or 3 years ago, and that's an interesting thing to do, but I mean, all we had to do was feed it once a week, I think it was, water it twice a week. We would just mix the fertilizer in with our watering, and it grew itself pretty much when it comes down to it. You just have to make sure there's not weeds covering the sun, or, I mean, it was just free roam. Our main issue with that was worrying about breaking over the THC limit, because it's 0.03% is the THC limit. And so we had to kind of look at with a little jeweler's glass and look at the trichomes and stuff and wait for the right time where they kind of teardrop. That way, that's right before, because if you let them sit in the sun longer in the season, it'll, THC will start to grow.
How did you learn all this?
Well, all this was from reading, but I just graduated the Cleveland School of Cannabis's horticulture program. So I'm trying to build off of that and hopefully go into go into that more.
Now, when you grow the hemp, do you send it off for processing?
Yeah, we had issues with our first processor, but I think we found a good place. It's really all in their hands after we grow it. You know, it's either you have a good one or a bad one, and roll
Now,
the dice.
so what's this hemp used for?
I mean, it's used for pretty much anything: anxiety, help you sleep, back pain. I mean, it can help pretty much anything. Like, I use it every day.
Really?
Yeah.
Any future crops in the works that you want to grow here?
Well, we're planning on pumpkins, and I mean, I'm always open to anything new. You know, maybe grow some food. We were talking about getting some chickens, become a little bit more self-sustainable out here.
Really? Yeah. Now, how many acres are we talking about?
I think it's 56, right? 54.
And how much is given to the lavender, do you think?
I think about 2 acres.
Oh, really? That's all?
I think we have it's about half field and half wooded. And in our backfield, it's mostly hills and stuff, so it's a little treacherous for the customers to go out there or anything like that.
Jack Ramsey, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Samantha Ramsey, one of the busy family members here. And the family business, the whole idea is to work in harmony, right? It's a harmonious atmosphere here. So the family does work in harmony, would you say?
Yes, yeah, we definitely do. And, you know, being the daughter-in-law, I get that a lot. Like, oh, you went with your husband's family, and yeah, we work really well.
That's always good to hear.
Yeah.
Now, tell us about the products here at Big Roots.
Well, the products, you know, we spent just quite a bit of time looking into what we wanted to incorporate and researching the different ingredients to go into it. And we had some trial and errors, some things that just didn't really work out. And then we found our tried and true that we stuck with.
Now, the marketing of these products is important. How do you do that?
We market them through social media a lot, and we have our website.
Now, do you have any any stores that carry your line?
We do in Evansville. We have partnered with Body Works. Yep, and they carry our massage oil, our body butter, and a couple of our products. They actually even use our massage oil in some of their massages.
So what's your big seller?
The linen spray. The linen spray, the roll-ons, and the sachets are our big ones.
Really?
And we have an up-and-coming one. Erin looked into, and she started with a body oil, and you know, our body butter tends to be another kind of big one, and it's kind of catching up very, very quickly.
Are you the product tester?
Yes, yeah, yeah.
So if it works, you give it a thumbs up?
Yeah, yep, and we kind of send it out. We get feedback from friends and family, too.
Have you had some products that just didn't quite work?
Yes, the body butter. It was one. It took a few tries finding the right recipe
Right
for
ingredients.
it. Yeah.
So it's kind of like a little chemistry lab you got going there?
Yeah, yeah, we put all of it. We measure it, you know, especially our CBD salve to get the dosage right, making sure we have the amount of grams per ounces and making sure we got that 1,000 milligrams in that bottle.
Do you guys do the packaging too?
Yes, yep, we do all of the labeling ourselves.
Really? So it is a family-run business.
It is, so if there's a crooked one, I'm sorry.
So from seedling to packaging, it's all done here.
Yes.
Is it like a kitchen sink operation? Where do you?
Yeah, in the kitchen. It
Really?
is
Is
in
that
the
where you
kitchen.
do it?
Yep, the whole, we wipe it all down and we have everything lined up, and then, you know, we'll even kind of do stations. You know, we'll have the one person making it, the next person kind of closing up the bottle, wiping it down, and then labeling it. So, yeah.
So what did you do before this, Samantha?
I work in early childhood education.
Oh, you still do that?
Yes, yep, I do.
Really? Do you see any kind of parallels in what you're doing now in early childhood education? It seems like it's a calming business here.
It is calming. just that constant problem solving, you know.
That's right.
Kind of a constant with both.
So, what are you seeing for the future here? What are you guys going to do next, do you think?
Well, we are expanding into pumpkins this fall, so we're pretty excited to see where that leads us, and keep growing with our lavender.
Well, I think lavender. I just seemed like there's more and more lavender products out there. It seems like it's trending right now for some reason.
Well, I
Maybe
think
people just need to be calm, or
a calm and helping with that anxiety. It's been a stressful period of time
It
these
sure
last
has.
2 years.
so. What's your favorite product?
See, I would say the body butter, but now I'm kind of torn. I like that body oil too. So, you know, especially the winter time, just getting that dry skin.
So, what has been the feedback from the people that you sell to on your products?
Oh, we've gotten some really, really great feedback. We have one customer who keeps returning. She says she can't sleep without the linen spray. When she gets low, she orders. We just had one stock up on, again, the linen spray. They just love it. A lot of
I don't
people
understand
say-
what the linen spray is. How do you make linen spray?
It's a spray, and you could like spray it on your bedding throughout the house. And what it is it's the oil, and then we have to put an emulsifier in it to help it combine with the water to help bring out that smell stronger than just because water and oil separate. So it helps those molecules combine, so it gives that smell a nice, strong smell to it.
So, is that the Grosso plant or is that the Folgate plant in the spray?
And the spray, now we don't use our actual lavender for our oil.
Really?
Because you see all of this floral material here, it takes over 3 pounds of that to get one of those little bottles that you see like with Young Living. So it takes 3 pounds of that, and that's a lot of plant material to go through for quite a little of oil.
So it's just the aroma of it. Is that in the spray? Is that what's the calming part of it?
Yes, yeah, and our supplier that we go through, it's organic lavender oil that they've accumulated.
Samantha, thanks for joining us here.
Yeah, thank you.
We've talked about the products here at the Lavender Farm and the process of growing the crops. And we also have a labyrinth on the property. Tell us about that, Erin.
Yeah, that really, our labyrinth is a dream come true. So I've been walking them for years and years. The first one I ever walked was in New Harmony.
Sure.
Yeah, and so I travel a lot, so I've walked them all over the world, and I use it like as a form of self-care. And when we were living in Evansville, I was like, Doug, can you just paint one in the corner of our backyard? Like, I always wanted a labyrinth, but we just didn't have the space living in the city. So when we came out here, we put one right in the middle of our lavender field. And what a labyrinth is it's people think they're mazes, but they're not. It's an actual ancient form of a walking meditation. And they always face due north, the entrance. And so as you walk in, you follow the path, and it's the time to let go, you know. And then when you get to the middle, you can pray or meditate or ask a question or set an intention. And ours is set up that if you have something that no longer serves you, you can leave it behind and we'll take care of it for you. And that came from an idea that I got walking a labyrinth in Montana. And then I'll tell you what that is. But as you walk back out the same path that you walked in, it's a time to prepare to take action. So it's a renewal. And we have so many people that have amazing experiences. They come in crying, our visitors, just saying it was magical. But I was in Montana walking a labyrinth, and I went up into the mountains. I was like staying in the valley, and it was ominous, and I was feeling afraid. You know, I was like even texting my husband where I was when I normally wouldn't do that. And there was this big path up, and it had all these stones with like beautiful sayings on them. And still nervous because I'm in the middle of nowhere. And you know, when you're in the mountains, the weather changes so rapidly and everything's so big. And so I get to this gate, and I open the gate, and I could not believe my eyes. There was the biggest labyrinth I've ever seen in my life, and it was like on this plateau in the mountains. Come to find out later, it was a mile in and a mile out. It was so big. So as I was walking in, I was feeling afraid, and I kept saying, I don't really have anything to be afraid of. Like, why am I afraid? And I get to the middle, and there's just this stack of stuff, and it just stuck with me. I mean, this has got to be 10 years ago that I walked this labyrinth, and it just stayed with me all these years. So when we came to Big Roots and put the labyrinth in, we used all the stone from our creek. So, and then, you know, we built it. My son Jack laid it out, and Doug, Molly, and I, my daughter, went out and built it. And the next day I went down there and I just cried. I just could not believe, how does this happen? Like, how am I here? How lucky can I be? And now we get to share it with people from all over. We have visitors coming as far as Nashville, Louisville, Indianapolis. When people's families come in to visit from all over the country, they bring them here. And the labyrinth is a big draw because it's a real healing renewal experience.
Now, you said when you get to the middle of it, you're supposed to leave your cares behind there?
If that's what they choose to do, yeah. And they'll leave keys, wedding rings, lighters, photos. And then we also have pebbles there so people can symbolically carry in something and leave it behind as well. But if you don't want to leave something behind, or you don't have anything that's no longer serving you, you can set an intention. You could just sit and watch the butterflies and the bees and the birds. You know, there's no prescription, you know, it's not a prescriptive experience. But I will tell you that when we have the visitors come and I tell them, before they even go there, they have tears in their eyes. It's like this feeling of, yes, I need to lighten it. I need to lighten my load in some way. And that's really why we're here.
Do you share this story when you speak at certain events?
Yeah, I share it with people all over the country, thousands and thousands of people. The two big stories I tell in almost all of my presentations are the less experiment, we're just experimenting, and that we can release what no longer serves us. Because when we can lighten up, then we can help other people lighten up.
I know, what did you say about 21-day joy challenge?
Oh yeah,
What's that?
Oh, it's super fun. I've had a lot of people go through it. We're launching it. It launches periodically throughout the year. But what it is you sign up and you get 21 emails from me in a row, and it's a video message with a worksheet and some inspiration and a challenge to clear the way for more joy in your life. So it's just an online experience that you can do alone. And people love it because it's short, it's sweet, sometimes it's really funny, but it's just a good reminder, you know, that we really are intended to live joyfully and abundantly.
Now, you're an author of several books.
Yes.
Tell me about those.
Yeah, so my first book was Be Amazing, which has 6 really key choices in it to help clear the way for what you're really supposed to be doing. And I sincerely believe if I hadn't written that book and decided to change my life around, we wouldn't be here at Big Roots, you know. So really we were, you know, it seems all hunky-dory now, but it's not always like that for us. So at that point in my life, me and Doug's marriage was falling apart. I was a workaholic. I was a grumpy mom. We were broke, you know, all the things. And I just remembered when I was a kid that I was super joyful and just funny and lighthearted. And I thought, how do I get back to that? And so I started developing all these tools, and then I wrote about them in Be Amazing. And then my second book is for teams at work called Inspired Work. And I was in a lot of leadership roles over the years. So I wrote the book that I needed as a leader to help lead my team. So now I can help people do that.
Now, when you go to these speaking engagements, what kind of feedback do you get from the folks? What's on their minds?
Yeah, that they needed it. People, I mean, with humility, they need the reminder that they're worthy and that, you know, we don't have to be struggling all the time.
So you don't just talk the talk, you walk the walk now.
Yeah, our whole family does. Yeah, our whole family does. I couldn't do it without them. You know, I mean, it's not just Big Roots, but life and being happy. And, you know, and not everything's perfect. Every family has problems and people worry and everybody has challenges. But what we believe as a family is that it's not what happens to us. Like if the plants die, that's not the issue. What the issue is, how do we respond to it? So everything is about how we choose to respond. And that's why Big Roots is joyful, because you can see other lavender farmers or anybody doing anything, and everything could be a problem or everything can be an opportunity. And we look at everything as an opportunity, even when it's hard.
Now, tell me more about Where'd you grow up, Erin?
I grew up in San Francisco, well, the Bay Area.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and this is a great story.
Well, good.
Yeah, so I grew up in the Bay Area in California, and I was in high school, and I met Doug, and he was in the Navy. He was stationed at Treasure Island, which is no longer a naval base. And I was coming home from a ski trip in Lake Tahoe with my friends and my sister, and we stopped at Treasure Island because it has a beautiful view of the city, and he was there with his friends. We all decided to go out, and we've never looked back. So we've been together for, I think, 35 years now.
Now, you studied childhood education,
Yes.
and how did you get from childhood education to this place?
Yeah, so I went to school at Sacramento in California, and actually I started as a journalism major.
Oh, really?
Yes, and then I decided it would be too much time away if I wanted to have kids, because all I really wanted to do was have kids, right? Now I have this huge career. You don't know where you're going to end up. So really, we are here, and this is our home, and it is our business, but we all still have day jobs. So we're all working full time. So we hope that we'll be viable enough, maybe 2 or 3 years where the farm could be it for us. But any small business takes years. So we're still growing. So I'm still in early childhood education, and I'm doing my speeches majority for educators. And then I work training on executive function of the brain.
So how did you get from San Francisco to Evansville?
Well, Doug was from Evansville.
Oh, okay.
And then we were working out there. I graduated, and we had our first son when I was still in college. And California is so expensive, but I had all my friends, all my family there. And Doug had the VA loan from being in the military.
Okay.
And I said, why don't we just go to Evansville and buy a house with the VA? The VA is like no money down kind of situation, because if I have a child development degree and he's a mechanic, you're not in the position where you're saving money, when you're that young. And so we came out. We bought our first house on the east side of Evansville, and Doug promised me if I hated it, we'd go back to California in a year. And I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And so we've been here ever since.
So you like to share this place with others, this place of joy, really.
That's our greatest gift. And one, seeing the people walk the labyrinth and come, but another thing, when we decided to start the farm, it was a tumultuous time in our country, and we thought we really do want to contribute to peace, and the only way we get peace is if people really know each other. And I remember our first season open, I stood at that door in our store and looked out to the lavender field, and there were people from all over, all different colors, all different socioeconomic statuses, everything, all the differences, and they were walking the labyrinth, passing each other, and I just thought they probably have never been around people like that before. Maybe they have, I don't know. I was just maybe creating my own story.
Right.
But I saw this diversity in our field, and I thought that's how we grow peace. And so the people are the greatest gift. I mean, and we have all these artists and yogis coming, and people sharing their gifts. And like when we host a special event, like if a yoga instructor's coming or a meditation, we don't charge them. We say, come share your talent. They collect their own money, and it's a win-win. We have more visitors, and they're sharing. We give them a platform.
Well, I think the fact that you're in this location too is away from the hustle and bustle, and it's really a very quiet environment.
It is. And we really made a very clear decision that I don't think will ever change, is that admission to our farm is completely free. Because Doug and I remember when we were young and didn't have a lot of extra resources, we were always trying to look for places to take our kids or to have some kind of different experience. So to walk the labyrinth or just come, you don't have to cut a bundle if you don't want. You can come here and not spend a dime, or you can come here and buy every product we have. And we hope you will, but if you don't, that's cool too, because we want everybody to have the experience.
I understand there's a unique butterfly story you want to share, Erin.
Yeah, it is about butterflies, but it's not really about butterflies.
Okay, that's intriguing.
So yeah, so one day we had 2 master gardeners come out, and they were scouting out the area for their meeting, make sure people with mobility issues would be okay to have their meeting here. And they both appeared really serious. They're my friends now, but their name's Glenda and Bonnie, and they know I tell their story everywhere. And they come in, and I'm like, we're not really farmers and gardeners, so if you see anything, let me know that we should be doing when you go out there, because, let's build on each other's knowledge. So Bonnie and Glenda are out in the field for a really long time, And Bonnie comes back. She stands in the back door of the store. I'm working the store, and she says, "Erin," and she's like this, and I'm like, "Oh no!" You get that panic, like I have a fungus on the plants or something. I don't know, right?
Right.
And I walk out there, and they're standing there, and she's like, "Erin, we want to show you something." And I said, "Okay." And remember, the master gardeners, they look serious. They're not serious people, but I thought they were at the time. And she says, "We have never ever seen this many species of butterflies ever anywhere in Kentucky in one spot, and they're tame, and that they were taking pictures of butterflies that they could never capture because the lavender was probably relaxing the butterflies." And she looks at me, and I pick a word every year of like what I want to focus on, and that year it was magic was my word. I just wanted to welcome more magic. And Bonnie, this serious master gardener, looks me straight in the eye, and she goes, "Erin, they're magical that they're here." I was like, "Oh my gosh, Bonnie!" They just came. They do a workshop every year here now, and then they came back. So Bonnie actually is a professional photographer, and Glenda's a retired middle school teacher. But butterflies and photography are like their thing, right?
Oh, yeah.
They came back with blown up pictures of every species of the butterflies, and we hung them all in the barn as a gift, so people would know what they were.
So lavenders will attract butterflies.
It definitely attracts butterflies and all the right people, David.
Well, there you
and
go.
all the right people.
Now, lavender is used in cooking, is that correct?
Yeah, there's definitely lots of baked goods. People will come in and get it and make. They want to make syrups for their cocktails. We have the coffee. We make some lemon cake with it sprinkled. Put it on brownies. So lots of different culinary uses.
And you're probably finding out more and more uses as you do this.
We learn so much from our visitors, so much. And what they're doing is so cool. We love when they send us pictures. So
Oh, sure.
if they're using our lavender in their wedding, or they're making a special drink or anything, we're like,
Well, that's
send
right.
it our way.
It's a decorative plant too. And for
Definitely.
wreaths, you said you make wreaths?
Yeah, I host wreath making workshops, which again, if you think about me not even keeping a house plant, it's hilarious. Sometimes I'm in the barn getting ready for a wreath workshop, and I'm like, this has to be a joke. Like, how the least crafty person. But again, it really goes back. It goes back. Like, we just had a wreath making workshop, and all the women were there, and they were nervous that they were going to do it wrong and follow directions. So I just said, everybody, slow it down. We set an intention and just let the process be, because it's not really about the wreath. It's about working something and being creative. And all of the wreaths always turn out so beautiful.
How does your day start?
Me, I get up super early. Well, Doug gets up earlier than I do. I get up every morning about 6:30. Doug leaves at 5, and I do a meditation. I write my journal. I drink my coffee. If it's nice, I sit outside. And then I spend a good part of my day on Zoom calls. Yeah, and then we usually do something with the farm later in the day.
Now, your journal, is that part of your book writing too?
Yes. Yeah, I'm working on a new book now. And then now that the pandemic's over, I'll be traveling a lot. Before the pandemic, I would fly 99 airplanes a year.
Really?
Yeah, and then I got to stay home for a few years. And now it's picking up again.
Now, is there some symbolism here with this logo, Erin?
Yes, and it's such a great story. So when we decided to start the farm, we had a meeting in our house in Evansville, and I already had a graphic designer, Rachel from Sprout, and so we invited her over for this big family meeting so we could start some branding. And so she did all these storyboards for us, and we knew for sure that we wanted our tagline, Grow Peace, on there. And we knew for sure that we wanted the 3 generations that were coming to be represented. So our kids, Doug and I, and then our grandbabies. And so Rachel came up with the logo with the 3 buds.
Oh, yeah.
In a forward facing direction. It's almost like a directional sign with the 3 buds representing the 3 generations. And then we came up with the Grow Peace because of the healing properties of lavender and the connectedness of people.
So is this a family compound here?
Yes, in fact, we're actually 4 generations now because my mother-in-law built a house up on the pond. So it is, and that is just, it's the most incredible thing that my grandkids could just walk over from next door.
Oh, wow.
That when we're open, my oldest granddaughter, Isabel, will keep the money and give the change. She's 7. Anna greets everybody. She's 6, tells them about the lemonade, makes the sales. Michael, my grandson's in there talking about his dinosaurs and stuff. But it's really heartwarming for them, one, to see that a family could be courageous together. And I always tell them that they have their whole army with them. Like, we are all together. And when we all live together in the same house for a few years, and I travel a lot, like I told you, and I meet lots of people from different walks of life, that it is so common in other cultures that families live
Sure.
together and stay together. Sometimes in America we think, it's like hindering each other, but in other cultures it's viewed as the way to be. And so we're so grateful that not all of my kids are here, but a good portion.
And you learn from each other.
Oh, do we ever? I learned so much from my kids. So much. I've got more humble over the years, you know? So now I was asking Jack something the other day, and I was like, what should I do? And he's like, this, and that. I'm like, gosh, thanks, Jack. Great advice. It's nice not to have all the answers.
So what do you see at Big Roots in the next 5 years or so?
Yeah, we really hope that it's completely financially viable and self-sustaining. And so we're expanding our crops to go a longer season with pumpkins and sunflowers, and that our online sales will just take off, and that all the right people will show up that have their gifts and talents to share with the people who need it most. So we're really hoping to create more special events around wellness and well-being.
Well, tell me about the wellness and well-being. That seems to be a part of your life.
It's a huge part of our life, the whole family's life. And I think people just need it, and they're not quite sure how to get it. So when they hear our story about our struggles as a family and turning it around, I think it gives people hope, And as Sam said earlier, that the pandemic just raised havoc on our spirits, and on lots of things, on finances. And it also was a gift. People repositioned their thinking. They started seeing more family time, less rushing, and we're seeing it pick back up again. So hopefully we can get people back grounded into the moment, because that's all we have.
Well, when you go to these speaking engagements, are folks starved for hope, do you think?
I think that people need some more hope. And I feel like each one of us can give that to each other if we just let ourselves.
So what's so special about lavender to you?
Lavender, we found out, I was doing a speech in, because I told you earlier, I never even kept a house plant, barely, sometimes. So I was doing a speech in Portland, and Doug happened to be with me. And this is probably a year before we came up with the farm idea. So you can see how you plant seeds in your life, right? So we're in Portland, and we said, well, let's go drive the wine trail. They have like this whole loop of wineries outside of Portland. And it was in March, and so none of them were open, and because it's all off season. And then we see this little sign like Lavender Farm, and I'm like, oh, let's go look at the Lavender Farm. I didn't even know what lavender was, David. I didn't have any idea. I mean, I knew there was soaps and stuff,
Sure.
but I didn't know an herb. I didn't know a mower from a bush hog. We didn't know anything at that time. And so we get up there, and it's like this little shack, and then a few rows of plants, but they're all dormant. And I thought, oh, and that's cool. And then we started driving away. And then I got this feeling inside. I call it a nudge, like your intuition. I said, Doug, if they can grow lavender here in Oregon, it's the same climate. It's the foothills of Oregon. I said, it's the same climate as Evansville. Let's plant some lavender when we get home. I don't know why. And he said, okay, And then normally I would just, plant something and it would probably die. But I actually looked it up that you need well drainage, no mulch, put some rocks. So I had the boys clear out our concrete flower bed. And that's how those 20 plants with the 10 the dogs peed on. So that we ended up with the 10 plants. That's how it started, from that one little detour.
That's cool. That really is cool.
Yeah.
Well, this has been quite an adventure, visiting your lavender farm and hearing the stories behind this operation. Erin Ramsey, thanks for being my guest on 2 Main Street.
Thanks for coming, David.